doing great, really doing great. Majoring in environmental studies. Totally stressed out about if she'll get a job after. So if anybody wants to hire, a brilliant senior. What else? How else is she doing?
She's thriving.
Yeah, there you go.
How are you folks doing?
We're a complete mess.
We're in Hawaii.
Yeah. We're in Hawaii.
What could be better?
We're also celebrating our 25th anniversary.
Wow.
Big reason why we're here. We'll be here for another week. Just completely,
Miss the faculty meeting.
celebrating. What's that?
She's going to miss the faculty meeting.
Yes, I am.
That's the second best thing.
Yeah.
When she was asking you to turn off the film, but you kept filming, it was kind of an uncomfortable moment.
Wait, which
film?
film? Which
film?
film?
A lot of times, or?
No, it's really funny because, I've been accused of that a bit. And Lucy actually has begun to come to my defense and basically say that, I really didn't shoot all that much with her over the years and all that. But it's a little bit deceptive, that thing. I don't know, are you talking about the scene where she breaks down in tears?
Well, when she was asking, she's uncomfortable, stop filming, but then you kept, you were telling her, it's okay. Or,
yeah, I'm teasing. The thing is, I think all the times that Lucy sort of, referred to, the camera being honest and helping and stuff, I left them all in the film because I thought it was really important. I just wanted people to know that Lucy wasn't the kind of kid who wants a reality TV show about herself, and maybe even overdid it by keeping all those moments in there. I mean, it's funny about those two scenes. I know what you mean. There's a thing where in her prom dress she says, I'm tired of filming. And, that was sort of, I mean, we bantered a lot over the years, and the camera was sort of our way of bantering. What I didn't put in, or have time to put in, was all the interviews Lucy did of me over the years, where she's like grilling me on camera. So that'll be in the DVD extras. But it's really interesting because in the last two scenes, there is the scene where she's online with her friend. And she does get a little tired. She says, okay, come on, Dad, put it down, and I walk away. And then there's the scene where she breaks down in tears. And actually, that was a really horrible moment for me because that was the moment when I realized that she wasn't bantering anymore, that she really was upset about it. And in the moment, it was just really rough to decide, do I shoot, don't I shoot? But actually, Lucy never told me to turn the camera off there in that scene. And I have the red light on when I'm shooting, and a filmmaker back there is nodding her head. Yes. It's true. So she always knew when I was filming, and she believed me. If she wanted me to turn it off, she would have told me to just flat out turn it off. And so, like in the moment, I just decided to keep going, and I figured in the editing, if it was just totally inappropriate or I crossed the line, that's when you kind of make those decisions. Yeah, I'm sorry. Here.
I said, but in that moment, you're the father too, and she's breaking down because she's talking about you and her and leaving.
Right.
And yet you're still being the professional. How do you find that, where you're trying to separate from you're the filmmaker?
Right.
With I would be inclined to want to put it down because I would want to cry, and my focus would be just how do you find that?
You're not a filmmaker.
I'll tell you, it was the hardest moment. There were two really, really difficult moments. I mean, that was one because I was completely torn in my role. And, here are the circumstances. It was like 4 days before she left. And we were all, I mean, the two of us were really stressed. The little Buddha here was fine, but the two of us were really stressed out. I kind of remember my sister at the beginning talking about how she picked fights with her daughter before she left. I looked at it as this was our equivalent of picking a fight, or my equivalent of picking a fight, and that if I hadn't been shooting, believe me, Lucy and I would have fought about something else because we were both so stressed. But in the moment, yes, I was completely torn. And it was kind of, as I was referring to before, it was really surprised because this was not banter anymore. This was Lucy really upset. And I'm like totally torn between, oh my God, you know, do I put the camera down and hug her, you know, or do I just try and work it through? And my instincts, you know, as a filmmaker came out. Believe me, I hugged her after I turned it off and all that. We had a long talk.
Yes, for the other hard moment.
Oh, the other hard moment was obviously when Marjorie was depressed, and I mean, she'll talk more about that. But I knew how important it would be to shoot it and let Marjorie make the decision about whether to keep it on. But it took me the whole 2 months. I mean, I knew she would the whole time. It took me 2 months before I could even screw up the courage to point the camera in her direction then. And the footage was, what you saw on the screen was exactly what I shot. That's all I could shoot. So, but why was it important for you?
Well, being depressed sucks, but one thing that I can do by virtue of that experience is be a spokesperson for normalizing major depression, and to have it in a film that isn't about depression, which is just about a year in the life of a family, and for the audience to see me fine, and then clearly not fine, and then fine again, I think helps people both who have suffered themselves and have shame about it, and other people who have no understanding of what depression does to a person, begin to appreciate that it's an illness like physical illnesses are an illness. And it's been really powerful in going around to film festivals and doing Q&As, and very often afterwards people will come up individually to me to talk about their own experiences. So destigmatizing depression and reducing the shame associated with mental illness is part of my calling, and this film helps do that.
I wanted to thank you guys for that. The feeling of not wanting to leave your bed, you guys captured that. You're just in a brief moment, but thanks.
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether you ever had any feeling that that actually having the camera gave you an opportunity to communicate with Lucy in a way that you never would have otherwise. And I think it's so, and your sister and other people in the film, and I felt, you know, that often when we've got an excuse, you know, some other thing to force you to bridge that gap, that I felt so much of the time during the film that this was just, that it really was for both of you an opportunity, you know, a way to be together that you are, and really to talk to each other that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, and thank you. I mean, it's a really astute observation, because it's, you know, a lot of times I get asked, didn't the camera, you know, my excessively shooting Lucy, you know, create a barrier? And in fact, I do think it was a way for us to talk to each other over the years in ways that we wouldn't have. It's like that with my whole family. I mean, I don't know how many of you saw my previous film, 51 Bird Street, which was about my parents and their marriage and the aftermath of my, I sort of allude to it here, but my mother died quite suddenly, and after 54 years together with my father, and within months he called from Florida to announce he was moving in with his secretary from 40 years ago, and they remarried. You know, as they were moving out, I discovered boxes of my mother's diaries, and it kind of opened a Pandora's box, but completely changed my relationship with my father. And so, absolutely, in that case, you know, it brought us together, and the whole movie, the process of making the movie, brought my family together, my sisters and my father, all of us together in a way that we never would have otherwise. It was quite healing, and you know, it was largely as a result of that that I kind of had the courage to go here with this film, because it was a film that I'd long thought about, but couldn't really quite wrap my mind around what would make it more universal than just seeing a young girl grow up. But it was in the aftermath of the reaction to 51 Birch Street that I realized, oh, you know, and at the same time it hitting me that, oh my God, Lucy has only one more year left, and where did the time go? And, you know, and wanting to capture, you know, in thinking about what would be a story about parenthood that might ring more universally, I realized that this kind of humorous story of parenting that I'd sort of imagined over the years, because Lucy's so funny, you know, was really a much more bittersweet film about letting go than my simple concept of it had been.